Hi guys, Lee here, welcome back to the channel, and you join me today as we're going to have a look at another one of my purchases. Now this time it's a 2009 plate Citroen C1 in black 3-door, which I bought from Aston Barclay. Now I actually bought this online a few weeks ago. I didn't manage to get to the sale, so I had a quick look online. One or two lots that I was interested in. Didn't really get anywhere with the first two, but then all of a sudden this little C1 turned up on the listing. I thought, you know what, I'll have a go with that. It looked alright, to be fair, looked pretty clean, and to be honest with you, C1s, iGos, was basically all the same car. Peugeot 107 as well. To be honest, they're pretty easy to repair, dead easy to sell, everyone wants them, and there's a car that I really like buying and selling and flipping on. So we paid £1,154 for the car. That was including all the fees. I think the fees would have been roughly, I think the car would have about £9.50. There was a buyer's fee. Obviously you got the AA report you have on the car where they sort of go around them and check them over and give you an up-to-date status of what the vehicle condition in, and also there was a live fee, so you pay a little bit extra on the fees if you buy online rather than attending to the auction, which is a good reason why you should always attend the sales, because if you buy 2 or 3 cars you could be £100 down just by not attending. So sometimes it is always better to go in person, plus you get a better view of the vehicles. Buying online is a little bit, you have to be a little bit careful, but we took a risk with this C1. To be honest with you, the report didn't look too bad. Now, how had the car picked up and brought it back to the workshop? I've unloaded it off the recovery truck, so it's now here. So let's go and have a look round it, see what we bought, go for a test drive in it, work out what we got, what we need to do, and what we think this car is worth at the end of it, and hopefully look to try and sell it on and make some profit out of it. So let's go and have a look at the C1. Right, here it is, guys. It's landed, the C1. Now this is a 2009 Citroen C1 1 litre petrol, 998cc, and it's a VT model. VT model is bare bones basic. This is proper bog standard. This is the cheapest Citroen C1 you could buy at the time, so you've got no goodies on this, as you'll see as we go around it. But even so, that aside, what a great little car these are, what great value for money they are, and cheap motoring. It doesn't get much cheaper than this. If you can't afford to run a Citroen C1 or a Peugeot 107 or a Toyota Aygo, all the same car, of this era, then basically you need a push bike, because there's no cheaper way of driving. They're the cheapest on the insurance groups. Cheapest tax, I think these are £20 to tax, and if they're 2012 onwards, they're free to tax as well, and they do about 50 to the gallon. We very rarely fix them, to be honest. They don't come in with engine faults or gearbox faults or anything like that. They're brilliant. The few little tiny things that go wrong with them, wear and tear, but nothing like most modern cars will get in it. You know, don't compare this to a Fiesta or a Corsa. It's a different league in the reliability sort of stats. But they're a good car, and that's something that I really push hard, to be honest with you. People ask me if they want a small car. I just say, go and buy C1, go and buy 107, go buy an iGo. Let's have a look around this car. First thing I've noticed straight away, number plate. We'll get a new number plate for it for the front, because it's horrible, scruffy at the top there. Wouldn't fail at being an advisory because it hasn't actually deformed the characters, but it's scruffy. It just looks the car down, and you'd be amazed how much a nice number plate can actually lift the front of a car, just make it look a bit fresh. So definitely get a number plate for it. So we're going to spend about a tenner there to sort that out. Paintwork wise, I just give it a quick blast off because it was covered in mud on the journey back, and to give you a better perception of the bodywork we're up against here. To be honest with you, it ain't that bad. Nice and straight here on the corner. Tyres are all decent, budget tyres I'm afraid, but nonetheless the decent quality, auto greens. Discs are a little bit marked, to be honest with you. I'll have to have a proper look at them underneath. Probably just might want just a drive and a clean up, so we'll go for a drive in a bit, so clean the discs up and see what we're like when we get underneath on the ramp. The rest of the car, moving on, nice and straight on the door. A little bit of an odd one here. We've got a mark here. First I thought it was like a bit of bad paintwork or something, but it's not. It's actually grease. I think it's someone's been putting a load of WD-40 or grease into this lock. They might explain something. There is actually a problem with this door lock, which I'll explain to you in a sec. But yeah, look at grease there. I just want a bit of compound paste just to rub that off, because they've just made an absolute pig's ear of that. Little tiny chip there, which wants brushing in, but nothing really too much to worry about. 3-door model, so we're missing a door here, handle. Little scuff there, Mark. It'll pretty clean up, to be fair. Again on the back, tyre, another budget tyre, 4-5mm on it, not in bad shape really. Someone's treated it to a set of black Citroen wheel trims. It's a nice touch. Originally we just had steel wheels on. There we go, Citroen C1 VT. Most of them you see are like VTRs, VTR Plus, etc. So it's rare to see a VT because it was proper boggo spec. Back end actually is quite straight, to be fair. We've got 2 keys. I'll just open the boot while we're here. Saber's doing a double trip. Saber's going round again. Got a set of mats in here, parcel shelves here. We'll clean all them up. That'd be nice. Trucks, put them back in the car. crucially, we want this floor pan up to see, yes, nice and dry, because I do suffer with water leaks in the back of these, usually from this area here. So always check the rear of a C1 or a 107 IGO, just make sure it's nice and dry in the back, because they can leak on, they say, on the light clusters. Moving on, nice and straight on the back corners. Tyre again, a little bit perished, that tyre, Continental, but it is quite badly perished, that 3mm on it. So we're going to be putting a tyre on that, to be fair, because I don't have a look at that tyre, that's quite old. So we'll definitely change that. Nice and straight on the quarter. Again, someone's gone mad with the WD-40 and just basically pressed the button down so it's spewed out the door and has made a mess of it, but that will clean up. I mean, the rest with this car, we're washing a polish up, actually will come up really, really nice. But again, nice and straight on there. Bumper here, so it's not quite right there. We've got there you go, there's a clip missing there off that bumper, so it's all there, it just wants reclipping back in. Sorry, a clip missing on the inner part, so we'll have to sort that out. Tyre again, another budget auto green, so we've got matching set of auto greens on the front, 5-6mm, decent nick. So bodyweight wise, not a bad car. Good polish, brush up, wash up, sort that bumper out, number plate on it, a look smart thing. Actually just noticed, caught me, I have not noticed that before. Channels are missing in the gutter in here. Both sides as well, actually. That's strange, why they've gone. So we're going to need to order a couple of them. We'll go and get one from the scrapyard or something, a pair of them. So we need to sort them out, because that's a bit odd not having them. But that's easy fixable, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, we've got 2 keys. This is a bog standard model, so we've got no central locking, unfortunately, on the VT model. And this door lock, which I would probably assume, which we can probably guess why there's all ruck of grease everywhere, because someone's tried greasing this lock thinking this is the problem, is not working correctly, either with both keys. It's seized up, so it's not working. So we're going to need to probably get a barrel for it, or at least take it apart and have a look at it. The door does work, locks do work on the opposite side, I did check earlier, so it's just a case of this lock in particular on the driver's side has got something wrong with it, which you can have a look at that. And both keys fit the barrel as well for ignition, so it's just an isolated fault with the door lock on the driver's side, which we'll sort. Obviously needs a valet, it's full of mud and all crap. I've walked into it at the auction where I parked it in a muddy puddle. Bog standard C1 IGO inside is what it is. We've got wind me down windows, no electric windows because it's a base model. We've got basically nothing in here at all, no luxuries at all other than a CD player. That's pretty much it, to be fair. We don't even get a rev counter. Quick look in the back. Straight, clean, is what it is, no rips, no tears. Oh sorry, tell a lie, little tiny hole there in the back, which is a shame. But you know, it's an old car, it's done 112,000 miles this, by the way guys, so you know, you are going to have a few little marks on it, it's not going to be perfect. Right, mileage, we've got 112,000 miles on it. Let's fire her up. Starts first, turn the key, as they always do. Love these little engines. They made these in a 1 litre, and they also made a 1.4 diesel. Now I've never ever driven a 1.4 diesel model. There can't have been many of them, if I'm honest, on the basis that really, why would you bother? Because they're a lot more expensive to buy over the petrol version. These do like 50 odd plus to the gallon. I'll put exactly what they do in the text below, but they're decent on fuel, put it that way. And it just didn't make any logical sense to buy the diesel because they're quite expensive to buy, and there wasn't really much advantage over these because these are cheap to insure, cheap to tax, cheap to run. So yeah, but interesting as ever did get to drive a diesel or buy and so on, but not one I've ever come across. But we're honest with you guys, just buy the 998cc, because we see we never ever fix these really. Don't come in with mechanical faults up really, other than sort of general wear and tear items, which you'll get on any car you buy. Radio's working, not tuned in. What else is there to say really in here? There's not much else we can say. Make sure your heaters are working and the fans working on all the settings, because these are horrible to change. You need to change the heater matrix or the motor inside these, or the resistor, because they're all buried behind the dash. It's a horrible job, you have to do one of them, so always make sure they work. Lucky that does, so that's great. Hazard switches, always broken on these, always cracked, don't know why, but everyone you ever see is cracked. It's just the way they are. Just the way they are. I don't know if it's a poor design or not, but I mean, you know, it's not really the biggest, not really a massive problem to worry about. Aircon button there is missing, blanked off, because we've got a bog standard VT model. There isn't really much to say about this inside, to be fair. What else can you say about a bog basic C1? There's not really much else you can talk about really. It's just, it is what it is. It's just cheap budget motoring. We'll pop the bonnet. Oh, fucking hell, come on, man. There we go, guys. A little Toyota Aygo drive engine, 998cc. Brilliant little thing. I say I cannot recall ever finding one of these broken or ever coming to our workshop with any faults at all. Like I said, we do wear and tear items on these, you know, tyres and brakes and stuff like that, all the usual stuff. Seen a few corroded struts on them. Clutches, they're very common for clutches. They do burn out clutches quite quickly, but to be honest, other than that, they don't really give money problems. Although I have just noticed something actually. Let's put this bonnet stay up. We've got some clips missing. Look at these lights here. Someone has zip tied them in. That is ridiculous. I'm not quite sure why they bothered to do that, because all it needs is just the proper clip. All it needs is the proper clip putting back in, and it's on both sides, which is odd. This bumper's been off for some reason because it's not been fitted back right either. So we need to check that really underneath, make sure that is. We haven't got any nasties under there. It's not recorded, this car or anything like that. It's not been on the damage register, but that doesn't mean someone might have potentially have tapped a bumper or something, or tapped the front end, and you just don't know. You know, you've got to be careful. So we'll have it underneath and check it properly anyway. But hopefully it's just a case of it's not been put back together correctly after maybe a little nudge. So we'll sort that out anyway. Just wants luckily the light actually hasn't broken the plastic clip, so they just want putting back in properly, and then we can resolve it. I'm sure we can sort that. That's not beyond our capability. Well, there isn't much else to say really. I think we just need to get it rigged up now, go for a drive, see what it's like, and then get it in the workshop and see what we need to do to it. So let's get rigged up, go for the test drive, and then get it in the workshop. Right. I love that sound. The Aygo C1 fires up, brilliant sound. Why? Because you always know it's going to start. Never got any problems with it. Now, I'm not expecting much wrong with this, to be fair. I've driven this out of the auction onto a recovery truck and then driven it round here where I'm showing you guys now. So it's not even done more than 10 miles an hour. But you just know that going on the road on this now, you're going to have no problems. And it's certainly not going to have any problems that are going to worry you, because these things really are, I mean, I hate the word it gets thrown around a lot quite easily, bulletproof, but genuinely, these are bulletproof. If you just want a small, cheap car, whether it's for yourself, for your wife, daughter, whatever, son, just buy an Aygo, buy a C1, buy a 107, because it doesn't matter what else they like or what they look at, I guarantee you, it will not be as reliable. It doesn't matter what else it is. You can go get them on the Jazz, a Toyota Yaris. I'm telling you, these are the most reliablest little cars that you can buy. They're cheap to run. That doesn't mean there's nothing that goes wrong with them, but when things do go wrong, they are cheap to fix. They're not particularly difficult to sort out. They just offer cheap peace of mind motoring, and it's not as though you're compromising either. They actually drive all right. They're not bad cars to drive. These actually are decent cars to drive. I'd rather drive this than a 1.2 Corsa as an everyday car to get back into work, honestly. You can just throw them around, they're zippy. The engines are go, I've got a load of go in them. And not only that, you can actually have fun driving them, throwing around everywhere. They're actually really good on fuel, they're cheap to run. There's no better than actually having a fun car to drive that costs nothing to run. You can't really get much cheaper than this. So if you're thinking of buying one, what have you got to look out for? Well, to be honest with you, not a lot. Key things really, like I said, we talked about the boot before, make sure there's no water in there, check it out properly. Look, if it is, it's not the end of the world. If it's cheap enough, buy it anyway. They're easily fixable, but obviously, you know, just be careful. You don't want one that's absolutely flooded with water. Key other things, make sure the clutch, they are common for clutches going. Literally, you can put a brand new clutch in one of these, 30, 40,000 miles later, they can be gone again. It's not so much the design fault, it's just the way they are. They just do a lot of work. It's a small car, peppy engine. The clutches just get ridden a bit. They just do fail prematurely. And when I mean fail, I don't mean literally leave you stranded. They just start getting very high and they begin to slip. So obviously budget one of those. But in fairness, they're really cheap to do. A clutch in one of these C1s or Aygos, I mean, most garages around here will probably charge you 200-300 quid, put a clutch in, depending on if you shopped about a bit. They're really straightforward to do, guys. They're not difficult at all. I wish most clutches were like these to do, because these are an absolute doddle. Other little things that can go wrong on them, indicator stalks, just check them, but again, easy replaceable. They can fail, whereby literally just nothing happens, or they they end up coming really sensitive, so if you just touch them, they start, indicators come on. But again, replaceable, get yourself one off eBay, brand new, I think they're about 15 quid, not difficult to do. That is pretty much it, to be honest. There's not really anything else to worry about on that front. For MOT purpose, I'd say just be careful with buying a very old one. They started these in 2004, would you believe? And they ran to 2013, 14, I think they were. Now, it's not so bad on cars of this era, but when you start getting the older ones, sort of 04 to 08, somewhere around there, do seem with a little bit of corrosion on the back, particularly the back arches and the floor there. I've seen a few of them go on that back sill area. So just be careful, always check them properly. At the end of the day, I've not seen too many that have been actually condemned, you know, really like a colander or something like an old Ford used to be back in the day. They're actually, most of them are quite fixable, but welding is an expensive thing to have done these days. Not many garages do weld anymore either. It's a dying trade because cars are being built so much better than they used to be. I mean, when I was growing up, most cars after about 6-7 years were rotten as a pair. That was it. That was a life expectancy of most average cars when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. But modern day cars, I mean, we moan now about some Fords and stuff and some other bits and bobs and some Japanese cars, but they're a lot better than what they used to be when I was growing up. Personally, when I buy these, I want to get underneath them. What I usually do at this sort of era age was ones that I'm sort of buying. I usually get underneath them, get the wire brush out, just sort of clean them all off best I can. Usually use like a really good under seal or a Hammerite, maybe a Hammerite black, something like that, and just hit it with all that. Just so it tidies it up a bit. It's just prevention really. All you can do is prevent corrosion and slow it down. That's all you can do. So I always tidy them up underneath. Just makes them much smarter as well. So what about this car? Well, to be honest with you, there isn't really much wrong with it. The brakes are absolutely spot on. We've got no noises, we've got no knocks, we've got no bangs. There is nothing wrong with this C1, and why would there be? Because it's very rare you find one with any issues with them at all. They're really, really decent cars, as I've banged on about in this video too many times already. So let's get this in the workshop now, go underneath it, check it, because we've got to make sure it's not corroded or anything like that. Check it all over properly, get a list together what we need to do to it, because we do need one or two little bits, and then work out what we're going to get for it, what's it worth, and work out those numbers. So let's get it in the workshop. Okay, so it's been a few days since we've had the little C1 in the workshop. We've done some work to it, we've had it on the ramp, checked it all over. So let me pull over, go through the numbers, explain what we've done to it, and see what this little car's worth and what we spent on it. Okay, so the little C1, what have we done to this car? Well, I got it in the workshop. I didn't manage to film it, guys, because I've been so busy at the moment. I've been getting it in and out all the time. But I will go through what I've done to it. I did capture a little bit for you. First of all, got it on the ramp, checked it all over on the suspension side of it. To be honest with you, didn't really find much wrong with it. Don't usually do on these cars. There's not much usually goes wrong with these little C1s and iGos underneath. They're pretty robust cars when it comes to checking them over for MOTs. So there was no real horrors to find there. Now I checked out the front end, a little bit concerned when we checked the walk round that obviously those lights had been out before. I think possibly maybe it's had a bumper on it in the past, so I was just making sure there was no damage hidden or anything like that. The car's HPI clear, so we didn't really have any sort of prior notice that there was anything was wrong with it or suspect to find anything wrong with it. But I can't actually find any damage at all underneath. It's actually straight as a die. No wrong with it. It's all everything's where it should be. So I can't really explain why the sort of lights have been out at some point in the past and the bumper clip's been off. But we've rectified them anyway. I put some retainer clips back in the lights and of course on the bumper and sorted all that out and straightened that out. So they're all good now. I'm happy with that. Then we went to get to work on sort of general maintenance on it. We started off with the door lock. That door lock wasn't working this side. I thought before I order a new door locking key, I thought, to be honest with you, I don't really want to be having two keys and all that messing about. So I thought we'll just have a see if we can try and fix it. And it was a quite easy fix, to be fair. All it was the pins actually inside the barrel. They were just all seized up. So we just took it out, cleaned it, soaked in some diesel, started messing about with it and got it all working nice and free again. All works perfectly now. Door locks are absolutely superb and working fine. So we saved a bit of money on that. I then pressed on with servicing the car. So we just did a strip down of the brakes first, clean them all up, clean all the slider bolts up, etc. Make sure everything's all good on them. The brakes are actually in good nick, just wanted a bit of a clean up on the drive, so we've done them. We did an oil change on it. I took the plugs out of it as well. They're actually not that old. They're quite a decent set of plugs in it, so we just cleaned them, put them back in. But we changed the oil anyway, because obviously we haven't got much history with this. It's a bit scattered. Just to cover the basics. Did the fluids as well and topped all them up, make sure it's all good. We then whacked a wiper blade on it because that was all horrible and smeary, so I shoved a new Bosch wiper blade on it. And I also had a look round in my little shed to see if I can find a part-worn tyre for this. And lo and behold, I've got a couple there, so I'm going to whack one of them on as well. Oh, and a number plate as well. Actually, we had to bolt on a new number plate. That's just tidied the car up no end. I hate a scruffy number plate. It just ruins the look of a car. £8 for a new number plate just transforms the front end of it. I also got that horrible grease off the door where someone's just gone mad with the WD-40 trying to fix them locks. So we got all them off as well. It was a bit of a job. I had to get loads of compound paste to get it off because it just stuck to the metal. It was all horrible and just sticky. But it did come off in the end, and it's smartened the car up as well. Just a nice general clean up, and it just looks a nice proper thing again. I've ordered the gutterings as well that go on the roof. They were missing, not quite sure why, whether they've been broken in the past and someone just ripped them out. I don't know, maybe they had a roof rack on it. Who knows, but they were missing, so I've ordered a set of them off eBay, £28, and they're on the way, so when they land we'll just bolt them in, and that is pretty much it, guys. The only other thing I did underneath the car, it was just starting to get to that age now when we get under 1,000 miles, when they start to get a little bit scaly. Now, I've MOT a lot of C1s, IGOs and 107s, and when you start getting 10, 12 years of age down the line, you start to see corrosion appearing on the back arches, particularly where the arch meets the sill. They are quite common for going there. Whether it's a drainage issue, I don't know, but they do seem to have a lot of them seem to corrode. And that's really their only sort of weakness, because like I say, these cars are absolutely brilliant mechanically, and you've just got to keep an eye on that corrosion at the back. Subframes can rot as well. This one's actually quite decent nick, so we're not too bothered about that one. But the rears was just starting to go a bit flaky. It needed hitting now. I thought if we just preserve it now, hit it with some underbody seal, it'll freshen it up, make it look nice, and give it best chance of protecting it going forward. So that's what I did with it. So get underneath it, use a sort of a hammer right underneath first, like a flip can job, and then just hit it then with a sort of a Schultz underbody underneath. So I've done that as well, just to give it the best chance of preserving it. So after all that, we're pretty much done. But what do we get for it? What do we get for this little C1, and what have we spent on it? Now, I bought this car from auction, and it cost £1,154. So on the invoice, that's what we paid. I then spent £20 on some paint underbody protection, so Hammerite and General Schultz underneath, was using the gun, spray it on. That was about £20 and a few pence. I then bought a service kit and a number plate. The number plate was £8, the oil filter was about £4, and then about 4 litres of oil, which we have in the workshop. Roughly about £20 spent on those service items. The plugs were actually pretty decent anyway, so we've just cleaned them up and put them back in because they're not that too old. And then obviously general fluids as well. We fixed the lights and the bumper. That didn't cost us anything. We went and put a wiper blade on it, that was £8. Managed to find a part-1 tyre on site as well, so that's great, that saves us more money. And the guttering which I've ordered for the roof is £28, and that's on its way from eBay. So the total spent on this car is £1,230. That is parts and purchase. Obviously we're going to MOT it. We run an MOT station, so obviously we'll MOT it ourselves. There's only a couple of quid cost to that for us to doing it, but we'll do that obviously when we look to sell the car on to someone, because it's already got MOT on it anyway, but we'll redo it obviously when we sell the car. So in all, really pretty happy with that. Like I said, low maintenance, not cost us a lot to fix. What will we get for this little C1? Well, to be honest, if you're having a look on Auto Trader, going through sort of what's about, there's quite a lot to choose from. There's a lot of C1s and IGOs out there, but to be fair, I'm quite proud of this one. I think it's a nice little honest car, and I think we brought it back to its best and just making it look a proper decent thing and something I can sell to someone with confidence. So I'm going to put out there a confident price. I think I can get $19.95 for this. I think it's worth it all day long. You may get some argument that maybe you should try a little bit more, maybe $22.95. But on the flip side of it, it is a base model, it's a VT model. When you start to push up that price board, there are going to be other cars there. They're going to have basics like electric windows, they're going to have electric mirrors, rev counter, aircon. You know, we can't compete with those cars. So that's what we'll be putting it up for, $19.95. And hopefully, if we do that, we should get a nice little profit out of it, somewhere in the region of about £750, £60. So a nice little tidy profit before we take into account any VAT margin. So thank you for watching this one, guys. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Please click that like and subscribe button. It helps me out immensely. Also, please check out my other videos, and I'll see you all in the next video.